And then there were two. It's the World Series edition beginning now of First Pitch. How should you be betting tonight's game? And how should you be betting the series moving forward? That's what you're going to find out in the coming moments here on WagerTalk TV. I'm Dan Alexander, and I got a great crew with me on Friday. Steve Merrill and Jeff Michaels. And also I have to mention here right at the top, guys, this isn't, a Monday morning quarterback where we complain about results or anything like that. But I would like to just have a moment for me and producer Robert. We were hoping that we were going to be talking about the Houston Astros playing against the Philadelphia Phillies, but instead they both crap the bed in lack of a better term. So we're turning the page here now, guys. It's Arizona, it's Texas, and let's make some money. Steve, I'm going to start with you and get your thoughts on this Diamondbacks team. Man, they did the small ball all the way in, taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, who live and die by the long ball, and they match up with a team who's kind of similar in their approach at the batter's box as they're taking on the Rangers here. We're seeing the Rangers as about we'll call it like 160 consensus favorites total in this one, 8.5. So game one, what are we thinking, Steve?
Well, first of all, Dan and Robert, you shouldn't feel bad. I mean, what do you expect? Your teams were up 3-2, home favorites in both games, 6 and 7. So, it's not like it was their fault. The road
Dig
teams
the
just won
knife
both
in.
games outright as underdogs. So, yeah, it was like a 10-1 shot that would happen. But this is
We
crazy. I
deserve it.
want to go back a little bit to 2 years ago. Obviously, these are two long shots. The Rangers were around 60-1. D-backs were like 125-1 when the season began to win the World Series. One of them is going to do it, obviously. But I went back and looked just 2 seasons ago, 2021 season. These were two of the three worst teams in baseball. In fact, the three worst records in baseball 2 years ago, the Baltimore Orioles lost 110 games. They won 100 this year. The D-backs lost 110 games, and the Texas Rangers lost 102 games. Those were the three worst teams just 2 seasons ago, and now we have two of them in the World Series. I did say on this channel, what was it, 9 months ago, back in March, when we were doing preseason shows, that the Rangers were my play on team in the AL. I thought the rule changes were going to benefit them more than any team in the American League. They didn't steal the bases like I thought they would. That actually really benefited Arizona, by the way. But I thought the
Mhm.
no shift rule would be huge for Texas because they have a good, solid left-handed lineup. And of course, we all knew they had the best pitcher in baseball, Jacob DeGrom, going there. Turns out that didn't matter. I mean, that's why everybody would have thought the Rangers made the World Series. It's because of DeGrom. And they picked up Scherzer, but that didn't matter. If anything, he's hurt them overall in the playoffs. So this is a really deep team. But I don't want to overlook Arizona. I talked about the bullpens
Mhm.
coming in the playoffs and how important they are nowadays. And both of these teams were in the bottom half of the bullpen rankings, what sure didn't matter because they made their way through the playoffs against a better Orioles bullpen, a better Astros bullpen. Arizona obviously took on Milwaukee, swept the Dodgers, beat the Phillies back to back on the road. The thing about Arizona, though, their bullpen is tremendously better now than it was a couple months ago, and I don't think it's a fluke. They have different pieces in there, and I do think they have the overall bullpen advantage in this series. Texas has home field that's worth absolutely nothing because the road teams have won almost every
Yeah.
game in the playoffs, it seems. So I do think this price looks a little high. Overall, the Rangers were obviously the much better team. Let's not forget the Arizona Diamondbacks had a negative run differential over 162 games, but as we know, the regular season didn't mean much because the three 100-win teams went 1-9 this postseason. I do think Texas is the better team. I think the series price looks a little high. I expect Gallen to pitch better. He was the All-Star game starter. The Phillies jumped on him in game one. He was a little bit better after that. He's had very mediocre numbers in the postseason. I think he has to improve for them to win. And by the way, another aspect of Arizona's lineup that we didn't see coming was Carroll, Rookie of the Year, left-handed hitter. So that's another reason the shift rules benefited Arizona. Both teams can run well, but both catchers are two of the best in baseball at throwing runners out. So I think that's going to be a real X factor in this series. And Arizona, I believe, had one stolen base in the first 5 games against Philly. They had something like 6 or 8 of them in the game 6 and 7 combined. So I think the team that gets more steals and the bullpen that's better is going to win. And Arizona is actually the better bullpen, and they can run as well as anybody. Definitely a live dog. I think the best way to play the series, though, might be to just to bet the 6 or 7 games. I really don't see either team running away with it. I think it's evenly matched. Neither team has that much experience here. I really don't see this being a 4 or 5 game series. I think it goes 6, maybe in 7.
Yeah, I love the breakdown and the thoughts on the series as well. Hop below in the comments and let us know how you're looking to bet either this game or moving forward. We'll swing it all on over to the stat prince that we got with us, Jeff Michaels, joining us, man. And same question that I posed to Steve there. You know, he gives a great overview of how he kind of expects this to go. You have anything for game one as far as anything that you're going to be betting, or are you looking to see how does this play itself out and how you're looking to bet the series as opposed to just one game moving forward here, Jeff?
Yeah, Dan, I'll throw a couple of the game one trends out there that I was looking at before and found this is going to be league wide going back to
Hmm.
2008. But definitely some interesting numbers here. How about the American League is 4-11 in game one of the World Series since 2008? But three out of the four teams that got the win actually walked away with the series. And it goes to show you that game one normally is the essential game. In the last 19 World Series, 15 out of the 19 teams that won game one went on to win the entire series. So that doesn't say that it was a 4 game sweep or a 7 game come from behind kind of win, but game one has really been the deciding factor recently. But, between these teams, the one thing that really stood out to me, Steve touched on it quickly, but it really has been a road series or multiple series, if you want to call it that. But this Texas team specifically, 1-3 at home in the postseason. They're 8-0. So, home field advantage really doesn't mean much to this Rangers team because they're
Yep.
playing better on the road. They're putting up 6.5 runs per game on the road. They're winning by almost 4 runs per game, and they're scoring under 5 runs per game at home, which is a big number for some teams, but obviously a
Hmm.
step back for this Texas kind of offense. But surprisingly, no surprise that Texas comes in with the offensive edge, but Arizona actually comes in with the pitching or defensive edge here. They're only allowing 3.4 runs in the postseason and holding opponents to a 231 batting average. So not only is that impressive for Arizona, but you take a step back and you think about the teams that they had to go through to get there. There's never going to be an easy road for a wild card team to make a run like this, but Arizona had one of the more difficult runs that we've seen in recent years. I mean, they went through the Dodgers, Philly took care of Atlanta for them, but they still had to go through Philly. So they have gone
Hmm.
through two muscular lineups, to say the least, and some power packed lineups, and they've made their way through it. And being interleague play, obviously in the World Series, there's not a whole lot of history between these hitters. But one guy that really stood out to me, Gurriel, has pretty impressive career numbers against Eovaldi,
Hmm.
who's going tonight in game one. I mean, Gurriel is 7 for 18 in his career against Eovaldi. He's got 2 home runs and 5 RBIs in those 18 at bats. But then the other side of that, Eovaldi's 10-2 in the playoffs over the last 3 years. And that's going to be his team record, but his team's winning by 2.5 runs per game. But I do think I agree with Steve to the point that I don't think that this is going to be a runaway series. My best bet is actually going to be a series 1-2. I like Arizona. You can get them plus a game and a half on the series handicap, sitting at minus 145. That does obviously leave the opportunity there to lose by a game. See if we go into a 7 there, which I do think that we're going to get to if Arizona doesn't close this out. But I think it could be essential in this game one. And surprisingly enough, we talk about the success of Texas and what they're able to do offensively, but they really need to step things up here at home in game one because that hasn't been their strongest site. And I don't think you can get behind against this Arizona team, especially with the additions in that bullpen like Paul Sewald, who has been the biggest arm for that team out of the bullpen. They've been impressive, and I don't think that this is a series that Texas is going to want to fight from behind here, despite their great record on the road. So I have to be looking at Arizona plus that game and a half, and if they don't get it done, we go to a game 7. It cashes anyway. They're sitting at minus 145.
Yeah, and I think no surprise either. The odds saying a similar thing, just as far as the thought of how long this series could go. I mean, if you want to bet a sweep under 4.5 games, it's plus 550. So, kind of with you. I don't really see a sweep incoming for either team. Even look a little bit more than that. Over 5.5 is minus 170. So they're saying with the odds there as well, an implied probability that you will be getting at least 6 games. And then if you do think it's going 7, that's your chance to get some plus money at a plus 195 over the 6.5. So, any thoughts as far as series pricing goes? Not just which team to win, but Steve, do you ever attack anything like that? Any props or different ways to bet, or do you just look game by game, use the thoughts that you use from each game moving forward, or pre-flop? Do you ever think, hey, I think this series is going long? There might be a wager there, whether it's for your clients or not. Is that something that you would typically bet?
Yeah, for my WagerTalk.com clients, I'm going to probably be taking it game by game. But Jeff literally stole my thoughts. What I was going to give out as well was Arizona plus 1.5 games for the series because I
Hmm.
really do think it's a toss-up series. So obviously that gets you leaning towards the D-backs plus 155. I mean, I would not want to lay 175 with the Rangers to win this
Yeah.
series. But yeah, to get that extra game and a half and get a decent minus money like minus 145 to minus 160 range, like Jeff said, is intriguing because as I said earlier, I think it probably goes 6 or 7 games. So the only way you would lose that is if the Rangers win in 6, 4-2. And you can actually get plus 350 on that if you wanted to hedge a teeny bit. And
Mm.
even now Rangers 4-1 is plus 550. So I just don't see either team sweeping. If this was a juggernaut team like the Astros, who have won a lot of titles, the defending World Series champs, I would be very nervous of a 4-0, 4-1 series because you have an experienced championship team against a team that's underperformed or overperformed rather. And I know your
Yeah.
Phillies last year had a nice run, damn it. If you remember, they won what was it, only 80 some games. They were kind of that
Yep.
team as well, and they fell a little short once they got to the World Series. So I definitely thought Arizona was due to fall short. But the problem is they're playing another team that lost 100 plus games just 2 years ago, right? So these are two teams that weren't expected to be here. As for that reason, I think it goes 6 or 7 games. I think the plus 1.5 games for the series makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, it makes a heck of a lot of sense. I'm with you guys. Nothing pre-flop for me. Hop below in the comments and let us know what you're looking to bet here tonight or for the series. You got a bead on who you think might have the most RBIs, most home runs. You also have fun props like that I know us recreational bettors love getting in there and sweating all series long. But if you are like me, Steve and Jeff, and you're getting sad that baseball is coming to a close, don't worry. Wager Talk end of year all sports special. You get 9 NFL Sundays, college football through the majority of the bowl games as well. NHL, 8 weeks of that action. NBA, 8 weeks there. College basketball is tipping off Monday, November 6th. Get plays in that. UFC, soccer, golf. We got all the tools you need to bet all the sports you love, and you can get a incredible deal over at wagertalk.com. Pick your favorite handicapper. Check these guys out over at wagertalk.com and get action through the end of the year for under $60 per week. One of the best deals that Wager Talk's been running in quite some time. Check that out. WT.buzz/SM will get you right to Steve's page. WT.buzz/JMS will get you over to Jeff's page. And folks, that's going to do it for our little World Series mini preview. We will be having game by game breakdowns coming your way here on First Pitch, but season coming to an end. Hop below in the comments. Let us know how you're going to be betting, and also let us know how you've enjoyed the show all year long or how we can improve. We're always looking to get better. I've been Dan Alexander. Big thanks to my guest, Steve Merrill and Jeff Michaels. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll see you next time on First Pitch.